Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful globe, floating through the void of Yah's creation. It is Friday, TGIF, the 16th of May, 2025. And yes, as always, every day, relentlessly, incessantly, I call out the mainstream media because you won't be trusted anymore. Yeah, you blew it. You know, once you lose trust, it's really hard to get it back. Anyway, welcome to the Friday edition of the WTF Reports. I'm your host, vonKleist, and as always, I humbly and respectfully ask that you visit our website, TheWTFReports.com. You'll have access to all of the programs that we've been doing ever since we started on the Red State Talk Radio Network. And I highly suggest you do so because there's so much information. This is only a 1-hour show, and I can only cover so much in each hour. So anyway, I come to the table with all of the audio receipts. So you can't say, "Oh, Dave said that. Dave said this." No, not even going to go there. Nope. I come with the actual audio receipts so you hear directly from the horse's mouth as to what is going on in this country and indeed around the world. So with that said, the big news, of course, is that Trump has been overseas. He's been all over the Middle East. And anyway, so he's been traveling around the country. And the word is that he's on his way back to the United States. Now, I thought maybe he was going to have the opportunity to sit down with Putin and Zelensky and work out some sort of a peace deal and stop this insanity that's going on over there in Ukraine. However, if they were to do that, I think they might want to be a little stealth about it. But I don't know. I don't know if that's actually going to happen or not. At this point, it's not looking good. But I got to tell you, I mean, back in 2017 when Trump made his tour, and they call it the capitulation tour, when he went to Saudi Arabia, he went to Brussels, he went to the Vatican, he went to England, he went to China, he went to North Korea. He traveled all over the country, and they called that the capitulation tour. And as when he went to Saudi Arabia, what was really interesting back in 2017 is that they had the royal sword dance, which they don't do unless there's a transfer of power. And they handed him the sword back in 2017. Now, a similar thing happened when he arrived in Saudi Arabia a couple days ago. They didn't roll out the red carpet. No, they do that with, celebrities and dignitaries and, heads of state, etc. No. They rolled out the lavender carpet, the purple carpet, which they only do with royalty. Now, Trump is not, we don't see him as royalty, do we? Well, maybe, just maybe, the Saudi Arabians did. Maybe there really was a transfer of power. And I found it really curious that when this was interesting because they had a parade, and what they played in the parade was this. Listen to this. Yeah, they played YMCA. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. Is it possible that Saudi Arabia has gone MAGA? I don't know, but this is some interesting stuff that's going on. Anyway, I mean, every day is interesting. I mean, this is like a real life soap opera that we get to watch every single day. And there's so much stuff that is unfolding. And for those of you who've been listening on a regular basis, this past week I've been focusing a lot into what's been going on with the disclosures, not just here in the United States, but all over the world, what's going on with the exposure of the horrendous act against humanity with the hokey-pokey thingy-dingy. Of course, I can't say the V word because they'll flag your account. And we are on, the WTF Reports is on YouTube and on BitChute and on Rumble And BitChute and Rumble, I don't worry so much about. But YouTube, yeah, they still have these algorithms that flag you if you say the wrong word. So that's why I call it the hokey pokey thingy dingy. So for those of you who have been listening all this past week, then you've heard some of the audio clips that I've been playing for doctors around the world. Dr. Ernst Burkhardt, he was giving a presentation, and it's just terrifying. His voice was choking back tears when he was explaining what he's found, and that the spike proteins are replacing the spermatozoa in men who have been subjected to the hokey pokey thingy dingy. Those spike proteins. And it's not just in men. Dr. Naomi Wolf was also talking about the spike proteins and the effect on women's ovaries. Now, this fits right into what I've been saying since day one. The number one goal of the globalists is to reduce the world population by over 90%. Now, if you still think that's a conspiracy theory, raise your hand high and now slap yourself with it really hard. Because we got to get people to wake up. Now, I got a couple of quick audio clips that I'd like to play. One of them, of course, I'm back on track with Dr. Naomi Wolf. And here's one of the things that she put out. And this was, I think she said this yesterday. And again, this is not Dave saying it. No. This is Dr. Naomi Wolf. Listen to this.
The centerpiece of the Pfizer papers is an intentional attack on human sexuality, and especially on women and babies. They killed the babies and they knew it. They poisoned the breast milk and they knew it. They damaged the placentas and they knew it. They lowered the sperm count and they knew it. They have a chart of the babies they're injuring. They have a chart of the women's menstrual cycles that they're disrupting. They concluded that babies were dying in utero due to maternal exposure to the vaccine. And this is the document that went to Dr. Walensky. And then she gave a press conference saying, you've got to get a vaccine, a COVID vaccine, before, during, or after your pregnancy. So this is satanic, right? This is satanic on a massive level. And you look at Borla and you look at, the fact that they knew they were doing this, which if you read the Pfizer papers, you cannot conclude otherwise. And this 13 to 20% drop in live births. So I guess what I'm trying to say is they tried to kill us. They tried to wipe us out. They tried to sterilize us. A lot of people died. There's going to be horrible struggles with fertility, but we survived and the truth came out.
Yeah. And this is what's going on now. This is what's going on right now, folks. And yes, she said it's satanic. There's no other explanation. We are dealing with a spiritual war here. And again, I've said this many times. I'll continue to say it. It doesn't matter what I believe. It doesn't matter what you believe. What matters is what they believe. And they are open about it. All you have to do is open your eyes and look. Open your ears and listen. Because they are openly Satanists. They are. I mean, this is sacrifice. This is what they're doing. And this is going on all over the world. Now, again, I mentioned that Dr. Ernst Burkhardt was talking about the spike proteins that are replacing the spermatozoa in men. Now, there's another doctor, and this was from a Zoom conversation. His name is Dr. Rene M, and he had some very interesting facts to put out. And by the way, I want you to stick around for the entire hour because there is a solution here. And I'm going to present this solution in just a few minutes. But the first thing I want to do is set the table and get everybody to understand how dire our situation is. Because it has to be stopped. We have to see justice, not just here in the country, but around the world. And the only way that we're going to do that is for the people to empower themselves. And there is a way to do that. But before we do that, I want to share this audio clip from Dr. Rene M. He was explaining how the mainstream media and the government is in an unhappy position right now of having to roll back all the bullcrap that they've been throwing down the collective gullet of the American people and indeed the world. Because they lied and lied and lied. And you just heard Dr. Naomi Wolf talking about the fact that all of the stuff that she was referring to was in the Pfizer documents that got released. Yeah, those are the documents that they tried to stay hidden for 75 years. But they got released. And what's in there is just horrendous. It's just horrendous. There is no way that this is not intentional. No way. But anyway, here's a clip from Dr. Rene M. This is scary stuff, folks. But he starts off talking about how the media is going to have to figure out a way to roll back and say, "Oh, well, we made a mistake and we're sorry and we won't do this anymore." Yeah, right. Yeah. Anyway, here is Dr. Rene M. Give a listen to what he had to say.
The truth is, even in the mainstream, starting to be coming a little bit out. And people say, "I don't want to know. I don't want to know. It is so scary. I don't want to know." And that is the issue then, that for me, what has been changing in the last 3 months, from an absolute nothing coming through to the New York Times making things, "We've been mistaken, we've been misled," rather than saying, "Well, bloody shit, we were actually the most guilty parts because we had propagandized, we have weaponized all you guys to segregate the society and all of that." That will never come, but at least it starts with something. And now my guess is that we will get more and more people on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been misled, university professors or whatever, other than saying, actually, I'm just too bloody coward to look into my own soul. So that is a big thing. And that's where I think Tess Laurie's little video that she already did last year, it was not a mistake.
Yeah.
We need to send that actually to everybody.
And that can be found on the World Council for Health. Is that right, Rene? Yeah.
Because she did that also very recently on the World Council of Health, I think a week ago or so. That should really be sent to people, because what will come through is, "Oh, it was a mistake. We were misled." And Fauci, yes, he did. He wasn't so bad. This is what my son said. He was just working with the information that he had at the time. And we will get this real whitewash in order to save this multi-billion corruption of the human soul. It was not a mistake. I think if we make that clear when in any discussion and say, yes, things are coming true, and I'm very happy with that. I'm going to actually send you 2 small videos. One is from Charles Hoffe in Canada. Very brief. You may have seen that recently. It came in yesterday, I think. He's very clear in 1.2 minutes saying it is all clear that this vaccine or this jab just kills our immune system. So the people will suffer from what their body's weakest point is, whether that is cardiovascular, whether that is endocrinological, whether that is neurological, whatever. That's where these illnesses will show. So it will show indeed 1,200 different side effects. They're not side effects. They're all part of the weaponization. So that was a very good one.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there. Did you hear what he said? These are not side effects. These are not side effects. These are the direct result. This is the desired goal of these monsters, to create a situation where your immune system is destroyed so you can succumb to any other type of illness or infection that comes on. We'll continue.
So what was the other one, Rene? You said there were 2.
The other one was Dr. Korshak in Slovakia. That was 2 days ago. I saw that. The member of parliament, he's a doctor himself, and he was charged with a commission to look at the Pfizer files and Moderna files, what was in it. And he said from all of the DNA content is not just twice as much as was allowed, no, 2,000%. And so there are vials where actually the DNA content, so especially the SV40 content, is even higher than the mRNA content.
Okay, he mentioned the SV40. That's the simian virus. This is deliberately in there, and he said it's not he said it's 2,000%. My God, this is insanity. This is, without a doubt, a plan for global depopulation, and they've been screaming about this for decades.
So that is so absolutely terrifying. And he goes very far. He realizes that his own life is at stake. But he said the countries need to stop all this biotechnology straight away, put a moratorium on it. And the other one was Professor Fukushima in Japan, who has always been very outspoken. He spoke yesterday too about this is essentially a time bomb in everybody. And that's, of course, why they're so afraid, people who start to wake up and see that, like the person who I talked with this morning, because they realize their own fear. But he said, this is the biggest catastrophe. This is the biggest scandal that ever was. And they looked at a number of, I think it's about 48 of the autopsies for people who died, very healthy people who suddenly died. And they find in all the organs, they find the spike proteins. So that's the same as Arne Buchhardt in Germany showed, who died. Yeah. So those are things that I think things are coming out. But now the interesting thing that I think is that it will be distorted. And it will be distorted where people will whitewash themselves. And the ones like ourselves who have been right from the beginning will actually be put to the side.
Yeah, that's right. They're going to whitewash the entire situation, and those doctors and physicians and caregivers who have been screaming from the rooftops, they will be marginalized. But the powers that be, they got to do something to back out of this whole thing because they are guilty as sin. And to be honest, I don't think they're going to be able to back out of this. I really don't. Meanwhile, you've got you've got the liberal Democrats out there that are screaming about bloody murder, all of this money that they're so accustomed to having all this time. You know, they're really upset because they can't put their hands in the cookie jar anymore. And it's sort of like, okay, they reach for the cookie jar, and what happens?
No.
Yeah, reach for the cookie jar again. Is it there?
No.
Yeah, right. They love that money. They love that money. And I tell you, they're using it for very nefarious purposes. Okay, that said, I'm going to take a quick pause for the cause. In just a few minutes, I'm going to be joined by Bill Hermanson. And Bill is a spokesperson for the Jural Assemblies that are forming all over the country. Now, I mentioned a couple of minutes ago that there is a solution. And the solution is going to require that every American finally go look at themselves in the mirror and understand what it means when you say this is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, for generations, we have been brainwashed to think that our voice doesn't count. My voice doesn't count. My vote doesn't count. What am I going to do? I'm only one person. You can't fight City Hall. Those are all psyops to keep you intellectually, and anatomically incorrect. There's a new drug that I think we all have to, distribute around the American people. It's called Grow-A-Pair. Anyway, let's take a quick pause for the cause.
Save you money every month on gas. Get More Tank is a tablet with active ingredients that adds big mileage to every tank. Made in America, the Get More Tank formula is used by trucking companies and heavy industry. Now the Get More Tank formula is available to you. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, lowers emissions, and you'll feel improved engine performance every time you step on the gas. Get More Tank works for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, mowers, and blowers. Hey, if you got an engine, then Get More Tank. Contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, and lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your engines. If you're an owner-operator running your big rig around the town or across the country, Get More Tank will save you money too. If you're a farmer, all of your equipment can use Get More Tank. A 5-pack on sale at GetMoreTank.com for just $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code REDPILL101 and get 10% off. Save your money, save your engine, save the earth at GetMoreTank.com. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, results vary.
And I humbly and respectfully request that you visit our website, TheWTFReports.com. Don't forget the word the, T-H-E, TheWTFReports.com. Click on the sponsors page, and that'll take you down to where you can find out more about Get More Tank, because this stuff works. All the technical data is on their website. If you have any questions or something, you'll find the answers at their website. And once you find your answers that you were looking for, then go ahead and purchase it. You could use the Red Pill 101 code, and you'll get 10% off. And I'm promising you, you will find that this is a win-win situation. Your vehicle will run better. It'll have more power. It'll run cleaner. And the payback is you'll get 15 to 20% better mileage depending upon how you drive and your make and model. So check it out. GetMoreTank.com. Go to our website, TheWTFReports.com. Now, that said, oh, by the way, I talked to John Banber today, and his mom is the person who developed the Wave Watch. Now, I've been messing with the Wave Watch 2.0 here for a couple of days, and this thing is so much easier to navigate. It's got more frequencies. It's 40% smaller. It's comfortable to wear. And as you regular listeners know, you know what Rife technology is. Frequency is everything, as Tesla said. Well, Royal Raymond Rife figured out how to use frequencies to help cells really flourish. And he also figured out certain frequencies would destroy bacteria and viruses. Now, I'm not here to tell you that this is going to cure or treat anything. This is for your informational and educational purposes only. But you can get more information. Again, go to our website, TheWTFReports.com, and check into the Wave Watch. I think this is something that I think you'll find very interesting. Okay, that said, it's 27 and a half minutes past the hour, whatever hour you're sitting in. And in the wings, I have Bill Hermanson, who, as I mentioned, he is with the National Jural Assembly effort to form the Jural Assemblies around this country. Now, many of us, myself included, I'd never heard about this until a few years ago. Now, if you want to understand truly the way this is supposed to work in this country, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, well, sadly, we've all been brainwashed that we are basically neutered here. But there is a solution, and that is to reform the Jural Assemblies in every county, in every state, and regain our power. And then we truly will have a government of, by, and for the people, because it's not supposed to go from the top down. It's supposed to go from the bottom up. So we got everything bass-ackwards, and this is an educational program here and an active program to regain our power and take control of our government. And with that, I welcome to the broadcast Bill Hermanson. Bill, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me all right?
I hear you loud and clear. Thank you for joining me today. Now, I wanted to bring you on because there are a lot of listeners out there that have never heard about the Jural Assemblies. So this is sort of like a 101 introduction to a Jural Assembly. So can you explain to the listeners, what is a Jural Assembly? Why is it legal? And how do we know it's legal? So what is a Jural Assembly?
Okay, a Jural Assembly is simply an assembly of us, of the people. Jural simply means lawful. And so we go through a process of following common law. We establish that there is a group of people who have mutually pledged to one another that we're protecting each other's rights. So what we are engaged in is reinstatement of the mechanism of self-government which protects our rights. And what I'd like to do is explore just a little bit about what the philosophy is of self-government, because it's really important that we get the right foundation built upon which this organization stands. And, govern means to control.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we control and still protect our rights? That's the key. So when we talk about self-government, it's important that we inspect the principles under which we can understand all the phenomena or facts. And we need to understand the goal in order to understand what self-government actually looks like in order to properly achieve it. And what we find is that self-government must start with governing self. To explain that, I think it's very clear if we use the Declaration of Independence. And in answering Dave's question, what we are doing is thoroughly established in the foundational documents of our country, in particular, the Declaration of Independence. It provides the foundation we can use to achieve a better understanding of what this government looks like, as well as it being one of the founding documents. This declaration was, in fact, a resolution from an assembled body. After the introductory sentence, it states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed." So the first basic point of self-government stands out. Government is established for the purpose of securing our rights and requires the consent of the governed. The people must be in control. Well, and then the next major point is that all men are created equal by their Creator, including unalienable rights. And three are named: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So if we look at each one of these three, they serve as a model to understand the whole. Because life means existence itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it includes each man or woman's self-awareness, identity, individuality. And this existence came from a Creator. Now, although most of us recognize God or Spirit as the creator of mankind, exactly what that Creator looks like is not necessarily a requirement for the understanding that we're looking for. There's levels of belief regarding the Creator. Some people think there isn't a God. The God is not a more popular God. Different views about the nature of the universe itself, how it was created. All of that doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't.
It's here that philosophy kind of intervenes and gives us stability. We find this in our study of the laws of nature. You recall our founders talked about the laws of nature or nature's God. What they're referring to is natural law, which is the system of fundamental rational principles presumed universally to govern human behavior in society. So the Jural Assembly ultimately is founded in this natural law. And there's many authors that you can look at to get a better understanding of this. But in natural law, we find that mankind has been created and provided with natural or physical rights, which are of a necessity for life itself. For example, any being to have life must be able to be physically sustained by food, water, oxygen. That's an unalienable right. Mobility to obtain these is required. And to maintain life, a living being must be able to protect itself against predators. The Second Amendment in the Constitution doesn't give us our right to defend ourselves. We already have a right to defend ourselves, and the Constitution is there supposedly to protect those rights.
That's exactly right. And, numerous times, for many years, I've gone up to people and I would ask them, hey, what rights does government provide you? And most people will say, well, gosh, I got the right to vote, I got the freedom of assembly, I got the Second Amendment, I got the Bill of Rights. And I would say, no, that's incorrect. Government does not provide you those rights. Those rights are yours as soon as you complete your journey, into the world. As soon as you pop out of your mom's belly, those rights are yours. The government was created to protect those rights. So people have to understand that those rights are yours regardless of what your religion is. And I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Now, the question here, a lot of people ask, and this is the revelation that I had to face, is that the Jural Assembly, as it turns out, is the fourth branch of government that we were never taught about. So you've got the legislative, the executive, the judicial branch, and then there's the Jural Assemblies. Now, from what I understand, now I mentioned this before I brought you on, is that there is a solution to regaining control of our government. And that is, of course, to get these Jural Assemblies established all over the country in every county. Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Jural Assembly in their county is the one power right there up there with the sheriff and the
Coroner.
I'm sorry, the sheriff and the, anyway, the point is that the Jural Assembly has the power to immediately remove an elected or an appointed official. Is that correct?
That's correct, because the official has been put there by the people. Because the second item mentioned in the Declaration was liberty. And liberty is freedom from constraint.
Right.
So natural liberty is the power of acting as one thinks fit, without any constraint or control. So people get a wrong concept about sovereignty. Sovereignty means you've got absolute power. You can do whatever you want. So in natural law, we can do whatever we want. But civil liberty is the liberty of men in a state of society, because we don't, as natural human beings, we don't want to live alone. We want to live together. And when we are together, there's mutual benefit. So it's for the safety and interest of the society, we want to live together. So in order to do that, we need to have some kind of rules. In order to live together in union, there has to be some restraint. We have the natural right to eat, but we don't have the right to eat others' food if we want to live together in harmony with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple logic, right? So as a group, what we're doing, and this is what the assembly does, we put rules in place that govern some of our actions. For self-preservation, we all agree that we're not going to harm each other, we're going to help each other. Way back when, this was getting hunting parties together and hunting as a group, and everybody was better off. So the foundation of natural law is with the physical aspects of life, which then forms the foundation of common law, which deals with the rules to govern harmonious union. The common law, for example, specifies that if there's no victim, there's no crime.
Right.
That's totally different from this statute law that says if you cross the street in the wrong place, you can be fined. That's not liberty. Now, so common law specifies how we can contract. That is, how we can make agreements between and among those in our union. Common law deals with the process of accusation and crime determination, and it deals with proper remedy for harm. So that's where our grand juries come from. The juries, the grand and petit juries, the grand jury and the trial jury, are not part of the government. They are above the Constitution. They belong to the people.
Right.
That's the way it was intended. So that's our enforcement arm of we the people.
Well, that makes it very easy to understand why we were never taught this. Now, I wanted to bring this up. As you know, I've been doing radio and documentaries for many, many years, and I've noticed in the past year on social media, whether it be X or Facebook or Instagram, what have you, more and more people are starting to become aware of what happened in 1871. How we lost the Constitution and became a corporation, and this is where I have to assume, I don't know for sure, this is where the concept of the Jural Assembly was just sort of faded into the mist of history. And people were not taught about the Jural Assemblies. And there's a darn good reason for that, because the powers that be don't want the people to have the ability to take them to task and to remove them from office. So let me ask you this whole idea about the common law, the Jural Assemblies, they were pretty much disbanded at around 1871. Can you give us a little bit of thumbnail sketch on how and why that happened?
Well, yes, that would be true. A good way to think about this is think about the town meeting. You know, early on as an agrarian society, most people a lot of people were farmers, and on Sunday, everybody get in their buggy and they go into town where there's the building that's big enough to house everybody, and they went to church. And since it's a long drive back, you would have lunch together, and then you had your town meeting. And in the town meeting, you would decide, well, it looks like we need a new sheriff deputy. Our sheriff is having a lot of, really busy. Or, the bridge over Black Creek needs repair. How are we going to do it? Are we going to chip in and get that done? In other words, the town controlled itself. That was local self-government. What happened over time, we got to the point of the Civil War, which was not about race. It was all about money and power. And as a result of the Civil War and all of the consequences, just the total destruction all across our country, what happened is power moved from the state to the federal. That's what happened in 1861 and thereafter. So prior to that point, we had more of a local control, and senators were not elected by popular. They got the 17th Amendment, where senators were elected instead of being done by the legislatures, which were much more closer to the people. They got done in a more democratic way. We never were a democracy. Never were intended to be a democracy. We were a Republican form of government, which is the only true representative form. By the way, grand juries ran into the 1940s, people's grand juries. Some may recall Tammany Hall scandal. Well, that was all resolved by a grand jury established by the people. So this kind of takes us here to this, the third right that was mentioned in the Declaration, that was the pursuit of happiness. This ties in because most people have not grasped, again, we were not taught what we were supposed to be taught, this true nature of self-government. This is where the pieces really start to fit together. Mm-hmm. The pursuit of happiness is not the pursuit of leisure and comfort, as many have been led to believe. Instead, the word happiness is essentially synonymous with virtue. And the word virtue derives from strength. So what we're talking about is moral goodness or moral strength, strength of character, avoidance of deviation from the rules of propriety. So in its simplest sense, virtue is separate from religion. Religion is, you go to church to learn about the principles, if you will, and then Jural Assembly is the practicing of those principles. Because what we do with the documents that we autograph, we're pledging to one another that we are in the pursuit of virtue, obtaining, maintaining, and applying in one's life the traits and practices that make oneself a model of perfection in harmony with those to whom one is conjoined in union. We pledge to each other that we are going to protect each other's rights. Now, if you look back, look at Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin. They were students of the great Stoic philosophers, Pythagoras, Seneca, Epictetus, and they had lists of virtues that they kept before their thought as goals to obtain, such as temperance, silence, resolution, sincerity, justice. And Adams, Hamilton, Washington, Patrick Henry were also influenced by the Stoics. So we see this, that's why we see that in the Declaration of Independence. These men were in the pursuit of virtue. They realized, particularly in their study with the philosophers and the experience with faulty government, is that government should only exist to protect rights, and the form of government must be such that its power was limited.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we ended up with a republic, which is the form of government that made sense to our founders, but only if it had specific limitations in order to control the representatives. And we see those enumerated limitations in the Constitution.
Well, we've obviously strayed far from the intent of the founding fathers, and as I was mentioning before, there are many, many, many Americans who've never heard about these concepts before, and the fact that, like I said, people are now starting to look at what happened in 1871, and this is where the term de jure versus de facto comes in. So can you explain to the listeners the difference between de jure and de facto?
Exactly. So de jure is all law, just like jural is lawful assembly. So the de facto is simply what objectively is in power at the time. So we have a de facto government that is in place. It is a corporation. There's no question about that. And it is not the government that we were originally given. We lost our true government. The true government is still sitting there with the organic constitution, the original constitution, not the one that replaced it. The Constitution for the United States of America was replaced in 1871 with the Constitution of the United States of America.
Right.
These founders, even though they were in the pursuit of happiness, they weren't always successful at that. John Adams, in particular, was very prideful. Thomas Jefferson had a lavish lifestyle, couldn't get rid of his slaves. So they were not models of perfection in this regard. But what they laid down was this understanding of the philosophy of self-government. And religion, like I said, plays a place in this, but it is this is not a religious organization. The Jural Assembly is based, because we're based on all these principles, it doesn't mean we are, quote, religious, unquote. We practice our individual religious beliefs. Mm-hmm. Now, this de facto is not something that we recognize or deal with. This is very important. The corporation does not operate in common law. It operates basically in British Admiralty law. And we don't have any power there. So the only way we communicate with the de facto is through public notice, which is the way you do it in common law. There are organizations out there that try to teach people that they are sovereign citizens, which, by the way, is an oxymoron. Those two words don't go together.
That's right, they don't.
So, and that you should, you can go up against this de facto and practice your right. What most of these people miss is that the de facto government is corrupt. It doesn't follow the law, even though they say they are. It is unlawful. It is corrupt. It is not fixable. You might do battle with the de facto, but you will not win in their sandbox.
That's right. If
the
you're playing,
Jural Assembly is the ultimate solution because it puts all the power back with the people where it belongs. And so what this looks like is that, and by the way, I have to mention this. Fundamentally, the Jural Assembly is following the two great commandments. Love God. In other words, love your highest concept of good, whatever that may be. And then secondly, to love your neighbor as yourself. We are not in this for what we individually get out of it. We are in the Jural Assembly to protect the rights of others. And that is true self-government. It's derived from natural law, supported by common law. It's a union of involved people in each state who want to selflessly help protect the rights of others. The Republican form of government, where representatives are elected to act on behalf of those who elect them, is the model that we're using. The people get together in a one-people lawful assembly. So it is the state General Jural Assembly that we all belong to. And it is the assembly that determines the will of the people, done in a deliberative manner, not an emotional one, not impetuous. Those reacting emotionally or with religious fervor are not acting in the best interest of others. Those state members that are domiciled in a particular county then get together to form county Jural Assemblies in order to supervise the government in their jurisdiction. And it is the county Jural Assembly that selects and maintains and directs the sheriff, the coroner, the township clerk, the county surveyor, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct,
and
yeah.
then each county elects a delegate to the state government, and each region the statesman.
Okay.
So the will of the people is then presented to these representatives and independent contractors to be carried out. Now, all of it done in accordance with the terms of the documents approved by all that constitute the rules for operation of the assembly.
Okay, I got to
And if
jump
there's
in.
violations of the rules, the assembly acts. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say we've only got about 6 minutes left here. I want to make sure that we give out some information where people can go and bring themselves up to speed. And I also wanted to say that, of course, we're all seeing so much lawlessness right now. We are seeing so much treason right now. We know that there are bad actors, and as you've been listening, there are people out there that want to kill the entire world population. I mean, we're looking at, Anthony Fauci. We're looking at all the bad actors that were involved in this whole thing. So one quick question, and then I'd like you to give out some contact information and websites. But a lot of people are really looking for some sort of justice. And personally, I don't think we're going to get it, not with the system that we've got right now. But the point is if, let's say that there is a bad actor like let's say we want to go after Anthony Fauci, okay? How would the Jural Assembly function in bringing up charges against somebody like Anthony Fauci? I'm just using him as an example.
Okay. So we're not ready to do this yet because we need to get more assemblies in place. You can't determine the will of the people with only a few people.
Correct.
But when the time comes, if there is a bad actor, in any case, the people call a grand jury, and the facts are presented to the grand jury, and the grand jury determines whether a crime has been committed and then whether a particular individual seems to have committed the crime. This is done with a common law grand jury, not one that has been manipulated by the government. And then that person is brought up on, if there's a true indictment by the grand jury, then that individual is arrested and brought to a trial by jury. Now,
that would be
no judge there.
That would be fantastic. That would be absolutely fantastic. And because there are a lot of people, like I said, they want to see justice. Now, the only way that that's going to happen, the only way we're going to wrestle the power back into the hands of the people, wrestle it out of the hands of the bad actors, is for us all, everybody out there listening right now, needs to start looking into their state and how they can get involved in their county and getting involved in the Jural Assemblies. So, Bill, can you give out some websites and some links so people can go and bring themselves up to speed and get themselves educated on the concept of the Jural Assemblies, because the Jural Assemblies have indeed been recognized by the Supreme Court. This is not smoke we're blowing here. This is real stuff. So, Bill, if you could give out some websites so people can bring themselves up to speed.
There's two. The one was an early one that is still operational. It has a lot of content. AmericanCivicsEducation.org. AmericanCivicsEducation.org. And there's a lot of material in there, particularly in the it's called the homework section. Then for the assemblies, we have a national website, States, S-T-A-T-E-S, States.MOGJA.net. The MOGJA was the Missouri domain, so we saved money by cloning that and making it states.mojja.net. And in there, in the public domain, there's a members only behind the scenes with a lot of information for Jural Assembly members. But the public portion of states.mojja.net includes a map of the states that you can click on to determine whether that particular state is involved or not. There is, in the resources area, a set of presentations, video presentations, extensive, and then under participation is a step-by-step process for how to become a member of a Jural Assembly or how to contact us, and there's a contact form to start a Jural Assembly in your state if none exist. We have a full settlement plan. It's a step-by-step chronological plan of how to create and sustain Jural Assemblies.
Okay, again, so those websites are MOGJA.net. That's M-O like...
States dot.
Okay,
Yes.
states.mogja.net, and the other one is American Civics Education, and that was .org? .org.
Correct.
Okay, and there are, there's so many videos there. I remember one of the things that woke me up was a book written by Red Beckman. It was called Walls in Our Minds. And Red Beckman,
yes,
a brilliant constitutionalist, he has an entire series there about the Jural Assemblies. And I highly, highly recommend that people run screaming to your computer and get yourselves educated on this particular subject, because this could well be the solution for correcting the problems that we've got in this country. Because as long as we've got a de facto government, it's never going to be of, by, and for the people. It's of, by, and for the corporations. Get that through your head. That's why we have uniform commercial code instead of constitutional law. Say, Bill, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. And I certainly hope that people here have had their curiosity tweaked. Anyway, so Bill, thank you so much for joining me, and I'm looking forward to having you and some of the other members, maybe from around the country, joining us in the near future.
Great.
All right, thank you so much. All right, we're running out of time here, folks. Oh my gosh, the time goes by so quickly. All right, that's going to wrap it up for today's installment of the WTF Reports. And again, I appreciate your listenership. If you're listening on Rumble or BitChute or YouTube, please remember to like and share and subscribe. That really helps us grow. And also, please visit our website, TheWTFReports.com. Share it with your friends and your family and your co-workers. And there are voices of sanity out there in troubled times. That said, the weekend is now upon us. So with that, I have to say thank you. God bless you. Stay safe. and stay free, doggone it. We'll see you on Monday.